I think they're trying the doors.
Anybody in? Hello? We found a little shrine.
The tent heard some screaming going, "Help! Help!"
This camping encounter comes from the YouTube channel Paranormal Discovery, where Lomar records his outdoor journeys, including overnight trips into remote and haunted forests, along with visits to abandoned places. On October 23rd, 2025, Lomar started another solo outing, traveling deep into Freetown State Forest, a location long tied to stories of satanic rituals, unexplained disappearances, and unusual phenomena. What began as a basic overnight camping trip gradually became a deeply disturbing camping encounter inside one of the region's most mysterious forests.
Right now I'm actually in the Freetown State Forest again, and instead of actually going to the Assonet Ledge, I'm actually going to be going to a completely different area. What the hell was that? Yo, something's being like thrown. Anyways, it's more of the people and the lunatics within the Bridgewater Triangle that I've actually encountered than the bears or the Bigfoots or the Pukwudgies and the cryptids. Like, the people are actually weird in these forests. So yeah, we're gonna take a drive. Yeah, my point exactly. I don't know what's happening right now, but I'm gonna get going.
When he arrived near the forest entrance, Lomar saw two men standing nearby. They looked suspicious, but he tried not to give them too much attention. Still, one thought stayed with him. He hoped he would not cross paths with anyone dangerous out there. On an earlier visit to the same forest, he had run into a disturbed person who eventually chased him through the woods, turning that trip into a terrifying escape. With that memory fresh, he drove farther toward the campsite he had chosen and started hiking deeper into the forest with his gear on his back. After reaching the spot he had picked for the night, Lomar pitched his tent in the quiet woods, surrounded by shadows. At first, the forest felt peaceful, but then the silence suddenly broke.
There we go. At least I got a little bit more leverage. It'll be at least a little bit of protection for me at least. Check the weather, seemed to be good, but it kind of rained the first 2 days that I got here. So at least if I have this and it's up, if it rains, then we can be underneath it and the video can technically be on. Yeah, I've never... What? Hello? Thought I actually heard something like in there. I'm like tripping out right now. Okay.
A chilling noise moved through the trees, sounding like a distant crying voice that felt strained and almost human. The sound was close enough to send a cold shiver through him. He froze and listened as the eerie noise slowly disappeared back into the darkness. Not long after, more strange and unexplained sounds began carrying through the woods. The uneasy feeling around him became stronger. Trying to convince himself the noise was wildlife, he kept preparing his campsite, setting up a small table for dinner and placing his spirit talker nearby.
Run now.
This was getting sketch. I'm eating
I
noodles.
am Desdemona. I do not understand.
I was gonna say, I'm eating noodles in the Bridgewater Triangle right now. I feel very vulnerable. All right.
The noise was him.
Okay. I'm getting a little confused here.
Thank you for listening. I'll throw something.
Guys, what the f is that? Whoa, 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 whoa. Guys, someone's down that path. someone getting murdered right now? Oh my God, I think someone's actually getting murdered. I'm like genuinely curious right now. I hope someone's not actually getting murdered. That sounded like someone in help.
The crying sound returned for a moment, followed by a series of violent knocks echoing through the forest, as though something or someone was hitting wood with full force. It did not sound like any animal noise Lomar had heard before. While he tried to figure out where the knocking was coming from, a low, painful moan rose from the darkness. The voice sounded male, raw with agony, echoing in a tortured tone that sent another chill through him. For a moment, Lomar wondered whether someone truly needed help. But just as suddenly as the sounds had appeared, they faded again. He stood still, listening closely, his heart racing while he tried to understand who or what might be somewhere in that forest that night. The earlier message from the spirit talker suddenly felt more important. It had said the name Desdemona, a word linked with tragic death, along with an urgent warning. Lomar began wondering if the message had not been random. Although unsettled, he tried to stay composed and continued camping.
I don't want to rush down there right now, just in case that's like a trap. But I will go and check that out. Like if someone needs help, then I'm gonna go down there. Okay, there's hooting and whooping. I'm like so curious now, like what if there's someone in need of help? They're just like luring me in. Who's down there? I just saw someone. Okay, that's a real fucking person. Who's there? I'm armed. I'm carrying. Who are you? I'm armed and I'm not playing around. If you attack me, I'm gonna attack you back in self-defense. No fucking way. What is going on?
But the uncertainty of sharing the woods with something unknown brought on a wave of fear. His heartbeat grew faster with every passing moment. Soon, the strange noises came back again, this time as a mixture of moaning voices and whooping sounds carrying between the trees. Worried that someone might really be in danger, he moved toward the direction of the sounds. That was when he saw something shifting between the trees in the distance. It looked like a dark shadow moving through the forest. Although the camera did not capture it, Lomar was certain he had seen a figure. As he moved closer, a loud impact slammed into a nearby tree, making it shake violently. His anxiety spiked. Every instinct told him he was being watched.
Now I'm tripping, like what if that wasn't a person? But that was definitely something. Whoa! 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 Oh! Who's there? I'm not waiting. I'm not waiting. I'm not waiting. I'm like nervous. I'm really nervous right now. Hello? Oh. Okay. I'm gonna pack up. Something's here.
While scanning the area where he had felt the presence earlier, sudden agonizing screams burst from the same direction. They sounded like clear human voices, mostly male. Echoing just beyond the reach of his flashlight, panic rushed through him, and he ran back to his campsite. He quickly decided to leave the forest and return to his van. But the voices kept going, echoing somewhere outside his tent. Lomar gave up on the plan to keep exploring, packed his gear, and left the forest behind. He did not stay to find out who or what had been out there. Trusting his instincts, he escaped the woods unharmed. Though the memory of the camping encounter stayed with him, the forest itself carries a dark reputation, filled with stories of hauntings and disturbing legends. When strange voices echo through a dark forest and no clear source can be found, the safest choice may simply be to leave. But if you were alone in the woods and heard someone screaming in the distance, would you try to help? Or would you walk away before the situation became something far worse? A video posted on the YouTube channel Indiana Jones Van Life, UK, shows how fast a peaceful night on the road can become a disturbing camping encounter. The footage reveals what can happen when sleeping inside a van turns dangerous. Hoping to see his son the next day, the traveler drove his small camper across the country. Since every official campsite nearby was already full, he had little choice except to quietly park along a street for the night. After finding his first 2 parking options blocked, he eventually chose a third spot. It was a dark, quiet area close to the beach. Knowing that staying overnight in an unfamiliar place can sometimes be risky, he carefully covered the windows, switched off the lights, and got into bed, hoping to stay unnoticed for a short while. At first, everything stayed completely still, but soon, the uneasy reality of sleeping alone in a dark, unfamiliar location began to sink in.
I think they're trying the doors. Try locking it again, and that's what it is. I can hear the van going, yeah.
Campers are often targeted because thieves assume there may be valuable gear or cash inside.
I think they're gone. Let's go and have a look, shall we? Yeah, look, see? Look, see? Nobody is around. I want to get back into bed. I don't want anybody to know I'm here.
He briefly pointed a light through the window, but the person outside had already vanished into the dark. Hoping the stranger had left, he went back to bed and stayed as silent as possible, so no one would know he was inside the van. Only a few minutes later, things became much worse.
I think they're back. Right, that's it. I'm moving spots.
The whole vehicle suddenly started shaking as someone began pushing and rocking the rear of the van. Realizing the person had returned and was making a stronger attempt to get inside, he decided staying there was no longer safe. He quickly drove away from the spot and eventually found a safer place in the woods where he could spend the rest of the night. Thankfully, he got away unharmed, and the next day he was able to enjoy a calm visit to the zoo with his son. Still, the mystery was never solved. He never found out who had tried to break into his van in the dark. Encounters like this show how quickly a quiet trip can become a frightening camping encounter when someone is traveling alone. Sometimes leaving immediately is the safest decision. If you heard someone testing the locks of your van in the middle of the night, what would you do? The next unexpected footage comes from Allison Sharp, van life and travel creator known for documenting road trips, national parks, and surprising wildlife moments. On June 18, 2022, near Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming, a normal drive quietly became a memorable camping encounter in the wilderness.
And it was literally just like shut down with all the signs saying road closed, road closed. You're not going to get through that thing. And the cool thing is when we drove up, we saw 2 bison just chilling as a bonus for driving all that way up there. And I did notice that somebody was in the guard booth, or I'm not sure what they call it. So I walked up just to find out a little bit more information.
The travelers reached the closed east entrance of Yellowstone after coming from Cody, Wyoming. Along the road, they start seeing closure signs, barriers, and several vehicles already pulled over along the shoulder. Although entry to the park is limited, the scenery remains impressive. Forested mountains rise above the roadway, while rushing rivers cut through the valley beneath them. As the family keeps driving slowly, they notice more cars stopped ahead. The parked vehicles make it seem like something unusual may be happening nearby, creating quiet suspense as they approach the area. While moving forward cautiously, they stay aware that wildlife, especially bears, is common throughout this region.
Right before we got to the Yellowstone entrance, we noticed a few cars on the side of the road, so we looked ahead and we noticed something that was moving. And so I couldn't tell what it was at first, but it was a bear and a baby bear.
Soon, the family sees a mother bear with her cub near the roadside. They carefully pull over and get their camera ready to capture the moment while keeping a respectful distance.
Oh, the little bear is standing up.
Suddenly, the mother bear charges toward movement in the nearby brush. She catches prey and begins feeding as the cub remains close beside her. After watching the intense encounter, the family eventually continues driving back toward Cody. Even though Yellowstone's entrance was closed that day, the unexpected sight of a bear and her cub in the wild becomes one of the most unforgettable moments of their trip. Traveling through areas with large wildlife can change fast, and a sudden camping encounter can happen at any time. If you saw a mother bear and her cub beside the road, what would you do? The next unsettling footage comes from Outdoor Outlaws UK, a UK-based outdoor channel focused on wilderness camping and survival challenges. It is April 6th, 2026. In England's Peak District, the group makes camp near a reservoir, with conditions already turning against them. Rain begins early, and their shelters are quickly put together. Water is filtered directly from the reservoir, showing how exposed and self-reliant their setup is. The surroundings are open, but far from forgiving.
Been through some creepy woods.
Been hearing noises as well.
We're in the middle of nowhere as well. Nearest road's miles away. What the f, man?
Little hobbit over there.
Wow. Anybody in? Hello? God, yeah. Any hobbits in there?
Oh, that's crazy.
Ah, what the hell? We found a little shrine.
So are people write their little messages to
An old burial site is eventually discovered. Worn gravestones and weathered details suggest it has been abandoned for many years. The place itself does not create any direct danger, but it shifts the overall mood. The setting changes from something purely natural into something connected to history.
It's a bowl, mate.
What the hell is going on? Yeah, little cross on the roof. It's a fucking lovely engineered roof, that. Someone's took the time to build this.
Yeah. I'm another 25-minute walk that was. Across the bridge. Get to the burial ground. Ooh. Some more ruins there. Looks massive. Look at this, man. Little tree, portway. Spooky. Shh. Just got to this burial ground. And our camp's just around the corner from this. Look at that metal one there.
All that. Probably the people that lived at the hall.
Yeah.
Servants and butlers and things like that.
Please respect this burial ground.
They probably owned the hall, didn't they, where we're sleeping?
Samuel Grimshaw.
They keep moving through nearby ruins before heading back toward camp. As darkness deepens, navigation becomes slower and more careful. Their decision to return is calm, not panicked, but it shows they are aware of the conditions around them. This moment is shaped completely by the location. Nothing specific happens, yet the environment slowly builds pressure through rain, rough ground, and isolation, with history layered over it all. Each factor alone is manageable, but together they change how the place feels. In locations like this, it is not only about what you see, but where you are and how long you stay there. Sometimes, nothing obvious has to happen for a place to feel wrong, especially when the surroundings and history begin overlapping in subtle ways. So the question becomes simple. Was this just a quiet night in a remote area, or was the location itself creating that tension? This footage comes from Exploring with Angelo, uploaded on August 8th, 2025. This time, Angelo decides to do something he normally avoids. He passes beyond the safer edge of the hill, moving deeper into the unknown parts of Happy Valley.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new adventure in an old place. This is probably going to be the last time we're back at Happy Valley. If you guys know this place, you know how freaking scary it gets here at night. I've actually managed to make it with some daylight. So basically, what we're going to do for now, at least, I'm very curious because we almost never get the daylight, first of all, when we're here. I've never really been past that point where we always end up turning. So we're going to go further down. Maybe I'll find another spot that's workable to camp out at tonight.
Returning to a place known for becoming intense after dark, he arrives while there is still daylight, planning to go farther than usual into an area he has never fully checked, hoping to find a better place to camp. He is looking for answers about a hostile presence said to exist in these woods, but the environment already seems ready for him. When he reaches the point where he usually turns around, he chooses to keep going into unfamiliar terrain.
Well, we made it as far as here, this is where we usually turn into. I think it makes more sense to just keep going in there and investigate, see what the heck is there. Well, not really investigate, but explore it. That was like a whistle or something. What the hell? But it sounded like, it literally sounded almost like a referee whistle. Strange. Okay, now I'm hearing people. I don't know if there's hikers right now. Normally where I park, if there is somebody hiking, you would see other cars there, but there's none. It doesn't matter. Let's keep going. I swear I keep hearing like people down there, but I don't see anybody.
Soon after, a sharp, unnatural whistle cuts through the quiet. The sound feels intentional, out of place, and hard to explain. Moments later, he starts hearing what sounds like people somewhere far off. Even though there are no vehicles or signs of other hikers nearby, the area seems empty, but the sounds continue. Even after checking around him, he finds no one. The isolation becomes more obvious as the strange noises continue without any visible source. Then, a sudden scream rings through the forest, clearly human, calling for help before fading into the distance.
We're gonna continue on this crazy frickin' Okay, that was a person. That was 100% a person. They just screamed. Hello? I also just realized my microphone settings were off. So I might sound a little wonky, but sorry guys. I don't see anyone. Who the hell keeps calling out? That was weird because it sounds literally like it was back where we just came from. Okay. Strange. Let's get up there and see if we see anything, I guess.
The sound is unmistakable, yet no person is visible. He tries to find where it came from, but the forest gives nothing back. The environment starts to feel misleading, as if something is making sounds to pull him farther inside. Searching for clarity, he turns on a spirit box. The static produces broken responses, including a reference to a long presence and a direct warning. The information suggests a link to the past, matching the history of the area.
I think we will keep moving towards our usual... The f*** was that? The heck? Like I legit like felt it like from behind kinda. I mean, I didn't have my back on it, I don't think. Let's run a spirit box for a second. I'm gonna use a device that you can communicate with me through. You can pick words if you want to. You know, I do believe that people who've passed on tend to go back to, you know, certain places that they used to go when they were alive. Like I was recently talking about this with a nurse at the hospital that my grandmother's staying at, and he basically said the same thing. Like one of the hospitals that he worked at.
I've been here 300 years.
300 years, so that would be 2000, so 1700s? That does make sense, actually. This is a pioneer area. Can you tell us how you died? I wouldn't mind maybe speaking to Kirk.
Get out.
Why did it say it like that?
As he keeps moving forward, the atmosphere shifts again, growing heavier and more hostile. A sudden pressure builds around his head, becoming stronger the farther he goes. The feeling seems physical, like something is actively pressing against him. At the same time, a loud impact sounds directly behind him, close enough to suggest something unseen is tracking his movements. The tension rises fast, making it harder to continue. The feeling becomes overpowering, as if an invisible barrier is stopping him from going any deeper.
I don't know why the vibe switches from heavy and anxious back that way. I don't even know how to describe it. Like dangerous. Like it feels, like I kid you not, it feels like there's almost like a barrier. Like something is stopping me or trying to stop me. Thought I heard something. But yeah, something feels like it's trying to stop me from going further. Is there something here? That was back at the camp. Sounded like. I feel weird over here too. Kind of what I'm feeling right now is like a weird like pressure, like pressure on my head, specifically my right ear right now. I don't know what that is. It almost feels like as if something's squeezing on my skull. Every time I get to this point, I literally just want to turn back. Like, that spot's already scary enough. What's doing that? Alright, screw it, let's go back. Oh! What was that? Something just like stomped right behind me. That was creepy. Creepy and loud. The fuck?
Every step forward makes the discomfort worse, both physically and mentally. Eventually, he chooses to turn back, deciding to leave the area instead of pushing farther into the unknown. Back at camp, the experience does not completely end. Shapes seem to move along the tree line, and distant sounds continue through the night. Even while resting, the feeling of being watched remains.
What was that noise? I definitely heard something.
By 4:00 Angelo decides to leave the area entirely, putting distance between himself and whatever may have been present in Happy Valley. Sometimes the mind can fill in the blanks when you are alone in a place like this, especially when sounds and pressure build over time. But when the reactions feel physical and consistent, it leaves one simple thought. Was this only fear taking control, or was something actually trying to stop him from going farther? This footage comes from Dan Doe's Retro, a UK-based YouTube channel centered on immersive camping and paranormal exploration. On October 3rd, 2024, the crew went to Witchwood Forest in the United Kingdom for an overnight investigation.
It sounds like the rain's coming back. We might go back into the tents. So if you want to make yourself known before we get back in the tents, this is your last chance.
In fact, we might not even be around much longer because the fire's dying down with normal firewood. If you can, make a noise. I mean, the most notorious entity of this place is either the demon, which I don't know much history about, or Amy. Amy, if you're around, we would love to speak to you. You can make a noise for us.
Anything at all, good or bad, let us know either way. But we are going to get back in this tent.
Great. Comes the rain again.
Let the fire die out, try to dry off.
Good fire in there as well.
Yeah. Very disappointing.
No, this is a bit of a bust. Yeah. Shame, I was expecting so much more.
You got 1 minute. Like, I'm going to walk over to the REM pod and start turning things off in a minute.
Rain's going down.
Yeah, strange, right?
Please tell me you heard that as well.
I did. Hello? So, what was that?
As the night continued, the environment began taking control. Rain moved in steadily. The temperature dropped, and the fire that had grounded the campsite started fading out. The light became unreliable, and the forest around them felt noticeably darker as visibility shrank. They stayed where they were, but the mood had changed. Earlier that night, they had made real attempts to communicate, asking questions into the dark, running equipment, and feeling as if something might actually answer.
Is that you? Are you near the REM pod or the music box?
Bro, no, listen to me. That sounded like a laugh.
Yeah, well, I thought.
It sounded like someone sniggering.
Do you like it that we're stuck in the rain?
I swear to God, the audio has to have picked that up. Has to have. It literally sounded.
Play it back.
I thought I saw a shadow up there then on that the line of the hill.
Cool.
It's like it was laughing. Something was laughing at us because of the rain.
Then the silence broke. It began faintly, the kind of sound that could have been missed if they had not already been listening closely. A noise drifted in from somewhere deeper among the trees, almost like a quiet snicker. Not rain, not wind. Something that did not seem to belong to the environment. They stopped mid-conversation and listened. It was clear enough to notice, but not clear enough to identify, and the energy shifted immediately.
Oh, what is that?
was that?
Like a scream.
Oh. What? Is that a light coming up there? Where? Over there? Is that like a light?
Is that somebody stood there? Am I seeing things?
No, bro. No, I think you're seeing things. Yeah. I heard that.
Yeah. Could be an animal.
But it's hard to identify things because of the rain.
Yeah.
I'm going to start packing some of the paranormal stuff up just because I don't want to get it wet.
Yeah.
As the first signs of daylight approached, the session came to an end. The rain had not stopped. Visibility remained poor, and the equipment never produced anything consistent. The sounds never became anything definitive. The fire was left behind. The gear was packed, and the site fell quiet again. The forest gave them almost nothing for hours, then produced 2 unexplained sounds right before the end. Weather may be one way to explain what they heard, but it does not fully close the door. Do you think those sounds had a natural cause? Or were they the kind of thing that still does not make sense, no matter how long you think about it? The final account of the night comes from Moxley's Paranormal World, a UK-based solo paranormal investigation channel focused on overnight camping in remote, natural places. On April 15, 2026, the investigators set up camp beside a rural lake in a parkland area of the United Kingdom. The site was ready, the fire had burned down, and everything around him had gone completely still. The only sounds came from the water and the open fields nearby. Nothing moved, and nothing looked visibly wrong, but the place felt heavy. Local claims and rumors connected directly to that lake made even the silence feel like it was holding something back.
With what sound like, and this the only way I can describe it, was a bunch of teenagers shouting and screaming. I've had a look in the back, there's nobody there. I've not been over the other side yet. Look at that.
He stayed there and listened. Then the lake changed. Splashing began out on the water, not scattered or random, but patterned enough to draw his attention. Something was happening in one specific direction, and it stood out clearly against everything else.
Abandoned. What's abandoned? Were you abandoned out here in the lake? It said there's a creature out here.
Energy.
Energy.
Unity.
Unity. Energy. Unity.
Wow.
Wow. So, who is this creature?
My body lies close by.
Oh, your body lies close by. Is that what people are mistaking you for? Thinking you're a creature, but you're not a creature.
I remember how I died.
Okay.
Help me, please.
Wow, okay, right. This is why I do enjoy the Spirit Talker.
Visitor.
Because, I don't know, some stuff just seems very much relevant to where you come to. Do you tell me your name?
Wait and see.
Wait and see. You're going to come out the water? You're going to show yourself to me? Are you buried?
Soon after, his spirit app started producing responses at an unusual speed. Words came through rapidly, breaking apart and overlapping without pause. Then the tone shifted. The responses moved toward warnings.
Can you make a noise? Can you shout? Let me hear your voice.
Please move forward.
Right, so I'm literally looking. I'll show you where I'm looking. So I'm looking here. Please move forward. You want me to walk down here towards the planks?
Acceptance.
Acceptance. Oh my goodness.
Please go left.
I almost fell in there then. Please go left.
Watch out for evil.
What was that? Watch out for evil. Is there something evil out here?
References to harm and something described as a threatening presence. He sat with it, trying to understand whether any of it connected to the sounds coming from the water.
Here for about an hour and a half. What's going on what? It's going on 1:30 in the morning. And I was half asleep, doing in that bit of a phase where you're half asleep, half not asleep. Yeah, sort of in the middle. And I thought I heard footsteps outside, so I just lay here. And then, straight past the tent, it sounded like somebody walked past. No noise, no nothing. So I've jumped up, didn't even pull the camera, just jumped up, got the torch, unzipped the tent, looking out. There's nobody there.
Later, while resting inside the tent, footsteps passed right outside. Close, immediate, and impossible to ignore. He checked. Nothing was there, no movement. No figure, no explanation. Only the sound, then silence.
Is someone screaming? Somebody's screaming. I'm just getting out of the tent. I heard someone screaming, going, "Help! Help!"
Then came the clearest moment of the night. A voice cut through sharp and urgent, followed by a whistle. It did not fade into the background. It felt direct and real, the kind of sound that forces a response. He left the campsite and walked toward the water to find its source. The sound had come from a clear direction, but when he arrived, there was nothing. No person, no movement, just darkness and open water. After that, the environment changed again. Mist began forming across the lake's surface, subtle, but enough to add another layer to a night that had already built too much tension. Every time something pointed him in one direction, the trail went cold as soon as he got there. The voice, especially, is the hardest part to dismiss. Do you think someone was really out on that lake? Or does everything that happened that night point to something else entirely?